So what we are going to do today is trace tables. Let me just start by using an example. Okay, a trace table. Have you been in this situation wherein you run some code and it works most of the time, but sometimes it just doesn't work? Have you been in this way? So actually the reason it happens is because you kind of understand what the code is doing, but you don't, so you have 99% understanding of the code, but you don't have 100% understanding of the code. And this can be risky because when you release your code, a code which works 90% of the time is no good. If I have got a burglar alarm, and if that burglar alarm works 90% of the time, it's no good actually, because 10% of the time it doesn't work, and it just doesn't serve any purpose. So what you need to do is, given a piece of code, you should be able to understand what the code is actually doing. So the way to do that is, you have the code. If you run it on a PC, on Eclipse or something, it will run in a second. Trace tables are a way to understand how the code is working step by step. All right. So we'll draw a trace table now. To start with, if I show you this code, what this code may be doing. What this code may be doing. And just let me just simplify this code. So instead of 10, let me just say 4. Yeah, and okay, if I print I and x, what value will be printed? Okay, so let's create the trace table, and things will become clear then. Okay, so in order to do the trace table, what we do is, we have got we create a table like this. Let me just all right, and we create a table like this, yeah, and then we start by which is the line that will be executed first. So if I run it on a PC, which is the line number that will be executed first? 1. Okay, so I start with 1. Yeah. Okay, when the first line is executed, what will be the value of I? 0? 0 or unknown, depends on the language really, because I really has not been initialized. Let's say unknown for now, yeah? You don't know. What will be the value of x? 0. And condition, we don't need to test right now because that condition is not being executed really. Okay. Once that line has been executed, which is the line which will be executed next? 2. And when 2 is executed, what's the value of I? 1. Okay. And what's the value of x? Sorry, what's the value of x? Yeah.
0.
And condition, true or false? True? Yeah. Condition is true, yeah. Okay, which line will be executed next?
3.
And what's the value of I?
1. Yeah, 1. No, that's the 1. I is the 1. Yeah, 1.
1?
Yeah.
I is 1? Yeah. And x?
2.
Y is 2?
Actually, 2 becomes I times 2.
Yeah, I times 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, so is 2. Good. And condition, we don't need to test because it's not being executed. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. After line number 3, which line will be executed? Yeah, so which line? Samantha, which line will be executed?
6.
After line number 3, which line? 6. Should I, after line number 3, will it be 6? Which line?
There's only a bracket on line 4,
So line 4 won't be executed? 4, yes or no? Okay, so 4 no. So it comes to 6.
No.
Okay, just assume that it comes to 6 for now. Just assume, yeah? Just assume that that we are right. Okay, so and you know this is one problem that many times you will face this problem, which is, so if it's line 6, Samantha, what value of I will be printed? What's the I now? When it's line 6, what's the I?
1.
And what's X? So that means 1 and 2 should be printed, isn't it? If I run this code now. Yeah, so let's actually see this code in action. Yeah, so what's going to happen is, if you run this code, actually 1 and 2 won't be printed. And this is one of the fundamental problems, that you have a piece of code, you think it's working in a certain way, you run it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And some of you may just, oh, okay, it doesn't work, you know, or it works sometimes, that's fine, that's good enough. Actually, no, you know, software, it should work all the time. So, yeah, let's just see things in action now first. So, okay, so if I run this, so this is the same code which we are running, isn't it? Yeah, if I run this code, then 1 or 2 should be printed. Yeah, because it's 1, 2. Let's see what is being printed. Look, this is being printed. It's not 1 and 2. So we have got a problem here. That means what we were thinking the code is doing, code is not doing that. Yeah? There's something missing. What is that? So after line number 3, which line will be executed?
2.
Exactly. So from here, it will never come here. It will go back to line number 2 because it's a for loop. So it goes back to line number 2. Now when it's at line number 2, then what's the value of I?
2.
Why 2? Why not 1?
Incremental.
Yeah, because I is incremented when you have a for loop. Yeah? When you have for loop, I is immediately incremented. Because of this I++. Is everybody with me? Yeah, so I++ I by I becomes 2. And what about X? How much is X?
X is still 2.
Yeah, X is still 2. Because we are at line number 2.
Yeah.
This one, we are not line number 3. Yeah? So I is still 2. And this condition, is it true or false?
True.
Yeah, this condition is true because I is 2 and is 2 less than equal to 4? Yes, 2 is less than equal to 4. So this condition is true. Okay. After 2, which line will be executed? 3. And then what's the value of I?
4.
No, I is 2. I is still 2 because line number 3 doesn't change the value of I. Line number 3 changes the value of X. But it doesn't change the value of I. Yeah? So I is still 2. What's X? 4, yes. And condition we don't need to test. Now after line number 3, which is the line which will be executed?
2.
Yeah, 2, because it's a for loop. So it goes back. And what's the value of I?
3.
I is 3, yes. And what's the value of X? 4. And what's the condition? True. Okay. And after line number 2, which line will be executed? 3. 3. So what's the value of I? 3. And what's the value of X?
6.
Yes, X is 6. And condition we don't need to test. After 3, which line?
2.
2. And what's the value of I now?
4.
And x,
6.
and condition is true or false?
True.
Is it true or is it false?
True.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, all of you say true. Sometimes, people may think it's false, but actually it may be true. So here it's true. And then if it's true, which line will be executed now?
2.
3. And what's the value of I?
4.
4. X, and condition under you test. Now which line will be executed after 3?
2.
2. And what's the value of I?
5.
And X? X is 8. And condition is?
False.
Yeah, this time it's false. Yeah? And now it's false. Which is the next line that will be executed?
6.
Very good. It's 6.
6. 4.
And I will be, what's the value of I? 5.
8.
And X is? 8. And then after 6, which line will be executed?
7.
And what's the value of I?
5.
5. It remains, and X?
8.
And that is why I is 5, X is 8. That is what is being printed here. Okay? So a trace table is simply, you pick up the code and you run it in your mind. And probably you haven't been in that situation, but I have been in that situation many times, wherein I'm thinking code is working, and it's working sometimes, but in some strange cases it's not working. And the reason is, when you're running the for loop or something, you are thinking it is going inside, but actually it's not going inside, it's coming out, because some condition is false or something like that. Hello. Okay, so that's our trace table. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is, so we did the trace table. You could do, in Eclipse, you could do something like a trace table, but using some tool, which is called as a breakpoint, right? So if I have got this Eclipse, if I just run it like this, the whole code will run in a second, isn't it? Yeah. When I was doing the trace table, what was the biggest advantage? I ran the code, but I ran it one step at a time, one by one. If I want to do the same thing in Eclipse, what I could do is I could use a breakpoint. So if you right click and say toggle, toggle means, can you see a red spot, blue spot here? So that's a toggle point. So what toggle means is, now if you run the code, it won't run the code in one go. It will stop here and it will ask you, do you want to go next? And then it will execute the next line. So let's see this in action. I click run. Oh, it just executed in a second. So what you need to do is debug. So if you say run, and then there's a debug option. If you click on the debug option and say, yes, I want that perspective, here you go. So it has, can you see the green line? So green line, it means it has stopped at line number 5. Why did it stop at line number 5? Because we put a debug here. So we are saying don't execute unless we tell you. Now, how do we tell the PC? This tab is called a variables tab. So this tab will show you the different values of the variables, right? Very much same as the different values of the variable we wrote when we were doing the trace table. Okay. Can you see these two here, step into and step over? If you say step into, it will execute the next line. So it's and notice the variables here. So if I say execute line number 5, you should see here I, and what should be its value? 0. Very good. I 0. And now my my green is on line number 6. So line number 6 has not been executed yet. When I click on this, then my line number 6 gets executed. And then what you should see here? X equals 0. Alright? And I'm now into for loop. Now when I click next, which line will be executed now? 8, right? Line number 8. Look, it goes to line number 8, and I is still 1. And if I execute line number 8, what the value of X will become? So look, X will be updated here, 2. And then the control comes back to where? 7. So in this way, you can just run it through the code and run it step by step and try to find out the error. So this one. So if I click it next, it goes to 8, and then if I click on next, what will the value of the X become? 4. So here it should be 4, and where the control should come? On line number 7. It does come on line number 7. Then I execute again. X becomes my 6, and it comes to line number 7. Then I execute again. X should become 8 because it's 4. And my control should come back here. Now when I execute, this, what should be the value of I?
Step 4.
No, I becomes 5, isn't it? Because I was 4, so when it comes here, it first increments I, so I becomes 5. And then from here, since the I is 5, the middle condition is false, so it doesn't go inside the for loop. Rather, it comes where? It jumps out of the loop. And then if you say next, it will execute line number 11, and if you say, next, then it will just finish the program. So effectively, breakpoints allow you to do, execute the code step by step. So if you are having a problem, if your code is not quite working the way you want it to be, then use breakpoint. So first write the trace table, and then use breakpoint to see, if what you have in mind is what code is actually doing. Okay, so now how does it link to the assignments? A trace table. If you have drawn the trace table, so when we wrote the trace table, then what did we guessed? This trace table we ran the trace table in our mind, and then once we finished the trace table, we thought I should become 5 and X should become 8. That's what we reached at. If the code is showing us the same thing, that means our trace table is right. If the code is showing us a different thing when you run it on PC, that means there's a problem in our understanding and what the PC is actually doing. And that's exactly where you need to kind of have a detailed look at the code. Okay, for the assignment, make sure that you have some trace table for some of the functions. Now, for assignments, you have to build a project, yes, but you don't have to build too many features into the project. So rather than building too many features, have some features, implement them nicely, and then go on improving the quality of the code. Go on writing a trace table of some of the functions. And when I see trace table, I will know immediately that you understand the function for which you have created a trace table very nicely, or you have a very clear understanding of what the function is doing. Okay. All right, so that is our trace table. I just wanted to show you one other example of a trace table. So here is a problem. Here is a problem, which is if you quickly want to read it through, and I'll tell you what we are doing here. So effectively what we are doing here is you have got a problem wherein you have got an array, and you are trying to find out if a particular value exists in an array or not. So if you see this test case, if I have got an array of marks which says 40, 70, 55, and I'm trying to find out if 40 existed in this array or not, it will return me a value of 0, which is because 40 exists at the 0 index. If I ask the array does 70 exist or not, it will return me 1 because 70 does exist at the index number 1. If I say 55, it returns me 2 because 55 exists too. If I give the value 80, what's the value that I'll get back? -1, because 80 doesn't exist in the array, and as from the problem specification, it should return me -1. Here is a code for that, pseudo code in a way. Now, and here is a trace table for that. I don't want to go into the details of the trace table, but just some quick points. One is this trace line. So this is the line. This is the number of line which is being executed, and you have got condition, which is true, false, return value. What are index and found? What are these two things? Yes, they are the two variables. Same way, like we had two variables, x and I and x, isn't it? So they have got different variables. And here's a trace table for that. All right. Okay, I don't want to go into the detail of the trace table. Okay, now for your lab work, what you need to do is remember the burglar alarm that you created last week. So I want you to create two test cases, two trace tables for it. One is assuming the distance is 20 centimeter, and one is assuming the distance is 40 centimeter. Yeah, so very much like this trace table. So would you all be able to do the trace table for the functions? Yeah? Sure, okay. All right, now, and the other thing that I want you to do is, so you all know your group, have a team meeting today right here in the lab. And if I could just show you, have a team meeting in the lab. Now for the assignment, where is the assignment one? Yeah. For the assignment 2, what all you, yeah. So I mean the details of the assignment 2 are on the study guide, but effectively what you need to upload for assignment 2 is all these things: a list of proposal, which you can put in the Moodle, and screenshots, code and all that. But one of the things is this notes of review meetings. So have some meetings, maybe once in 2 weeks or once in a week, depending on how much is the work pressure on you, and produce minutes of meetings, right? So what happened, who attended, who did not attend, and that will give me an insight into how who all have participated well in the project, and you have to upload that. Now, so create a GitHub repository for your project, and upload your proposal there and some minutes of the meeting that you will be having today, and you can use the lab time to do the meeting. Yes.
Do you just want one of that, or from each team? Would you want, for example, 4?
What, the minutes of meeting?
No, as in like the proposal, all those bits there.
It's all just one for one team.
It's just one for one team. Yeah, it's just one for one team. Yeah, it's one for one team. When you upload your proposal, write your team. Write the names of the teams. And one more thing I want from you, for the teams, for the where is the teams?
To your right. This one's supposed to see.
That is semester 2. Yeah.
No, on the right.
Okay, this one. Okay, for the team, I need a product name or the team name. Now, some of teams have given me names like Parkinson sensor. So this team is making Parkinson's. Are you still making Parkinson's sensor, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Some people are making these Pi robots, which is a Raspberry Pi and Arduino robots. Some, I don't know what this Batman stands for. Some people are making attendance systems. So they are making, they have got a RFID card reader. So you scan your card, and then all the attendance goes to a database. So I don't have to take attendance. In a few weeks' time, I'll just have the hardware there. I'll say, okay, just scan your card, and I'll automatically get the attendance. Yeah. So what I want from you is the name of the team. So if you could email me name of the team. Now, name of the team could either be the product that you are making, or if you want to come up with your own names. Yeah. So you can have that name. Yes. Yes. All right. Okay. Are there any questions regarding the assignment? And also remember that for the assignment, you have to create this 5-minute short MP4 video, and effectively you have to, when you are presenting this stuff, you have to present as if you are presenting to a group of venture capitalists who may fund your project. So just okay. So any questions? No.